Taylor Hawkins' sudden death in 2022 was the final tragedy in a series of low points the drummer endured over the years, ultimately leaving fans wondering where it all went wrong. Addiction is a stereotype with rock stars, and sadly, Taylor Hawkins was not spared from it during his musical career. The Foo Fighters drummer had a history of substance abuse that included the use of heroin. In interviews, Hawkins rarely seemed to want to go into detail about the fact that he abused drugs in the past.
We try and keep all our drummers inside insular. They're not really that bad.
No. We're terribly passive-aggressive.
Exactly.
But he did occasionally address his past with addiction. Hawkins once told Kerrang!, "I just got out of control for a while and it almost got me. I was heading down a road that was going to lead to even worse paths." In keeping with his tendency to spin serious subjects in a positive light, he compared his journey with anyone who may be going through hardships, adding, "Whether someone is sober, or they like a glass of wine with dinner, or they want a bottle of Jägermeister before they go on stage, or they like to smoke doobies all day long, everyone has their own path, and I took it too far." In his later years, the musician appeared to be free of hard drugs and often noted he was maintaining more of a focus on his health, but he almost didn't make it to that point. It would take a life-threatening emergency to give Hawkins a wake-up call about his addiction. In August 2001, only a few years after he joined the Foo Fighters, the drummer overdosed on heroin in London and wound up hospitalized in a coma for 2 weeks. The dire situation sent shockwaves through the band, nearly convincing bandleader Dave Grohl to give up Foo Fighters and even music altogether. Grohl told The Guardian in 2011, "When Taylor wound up in hospital, I was ready to quit music, because to me, it felt like music equaled death. I started praying. I'd never been to church in my life, and I'm walking back from Taylor's hospital to our hotel every night, praying out loud in the streets of London." Despite being so close to death, Hawkins' view of the terrifying incident was that it most likely saved his life. He told Beats One in 2018, "Thank God on some level this guy gave me the wrong line with the wrong thing one night. That was a real changing point for me." The overdose came amid production for Foo Fighters' fourth album, what would be 2002's One by One. The band paused the sessions to allow Hawkins time to recover, but they were a group reinvigorated once the drummer was fully back in the saddle. In spring 2002, all the previous album sessions were scrapped, and the band re-recorded the album anew in a matter of weeks. The early 2000s were a time of turmoil for the Foo Fighters. On top of Hawkins' overdose and coma, tensions between him and Grohl reached a boiling point. One particular argument ended with the Foo Fighters frontman issuing an ultimatum. Hawkins recalled Grohl saying, "You know what? I'm going to tell you right now, this is how it is. It's my band. If you don't like it, beat it." Without mincing words, Hawkins told Grohl that he was leaving the band. At the time, Grohl was moonlighting on drums for Queens of the Stone Age, contributing to some sore feelings from Hawkins as a drummer for the Foo Fighters.
And we weren't sure if we were even going to be a band anymore. This was back in 2001 or something like that.
Sessions for One by One hadn't been going smoothly, and the two were butting heads on creative decisions. Hawkins told Rolling Stone, "I was still coming out of my fog from London, and I was still coming out of my fog from thinking that this should be a complete democracy. I was being a smartass and know-it-all, thinking I know what was right." In the end, Hawkins and Grohl worked things out between them, but the band was in shambles surrounding their appearance at Coachella 2002, where Queens of the Stone Age also played. As a famous drummer for one of the most successful alternative rock bands of the 21st century, you might think that Hawkins would have ironed out any onstage jitters he had after playing live concerts in public for so many years. But the rocker was tormented by stage fright that carried through to his final days. It's not something he took lightly, as he underscored it in one of his last interviews. Ahead of an intimate Foo Fighters club performance in 2021, Hawkins told Rolling Stone, "I have major stage fright. Major, major, major. Like today is like I'm in hell right now." At least in part, Hawkins' stage fright came from a desire to achieve perfection at each and every show, no matter how large or how small. Unfortunately, that drive for perfection led to near-crippling anxiety before he was due to go on stage.
You look like you're smiling the whole time you're playing. I'm not actually. I'm gritting my teeth, but it looks like people think I'm smiling the whole time.
In another interview that same year, he echoed the sentiment to Kerrang!, saying, "I just feel a certain way when there's 100,000 people waiting for you to go on stage. I put a big burden on myself to play perfectly, whatever that means, and keep in perfect time." Hawkins indicated that he was experiencing a few health issues in the year before his death. When the topic of his health came up in his 2021 interview with Rolling Stone, the drummer revealed that he got terrible sinus infections and could have sleep apnea. In the same conversation, Hawkins mentioned having a large heart, though he portrayed that observation positively, going by what his doctor had said. Hawkins explained, "I just found out from my doctor, got all my blood tests and my heart, everything checked." And he goes, "Dude, you're in amazing shape. Your heart's big because you exercise a lot. It's like a runner's heart." Despite his doctor's assurances that his heart was perfectly healthy, the size of it was explicitly mentioned in the autopsy that was performed after his death. The report claimed that it was double the size of a normal healthy heart. There might have been other forewarnings about Hawkins' health during the drummer's final year. However, the picture isn't perfectly clear. In a May 2022 Rolling Stone expose covering Hawkins' final days as a Foo Fighter, the magazine reported that the drummer had lost consciousness aboard a plane with the band in December 2021, just 3 months before his death. When the incident occurred, other news outlets reported it without naming Hawkins explicitly, only stating that a member of the Foo Fighters was rushed to the hospital. In response to Rolling Stone's portrayal of the event, the representative for Foo Fighters said the story about Hawkins was untrue, even though the magazine claimed that multiple friends of Hawkins had corroborated the account of him losing consciousness. To make matters even more confusing, 2 friends of Hawkins who initially took part in the Rolling Stone piece, Pearl Jam's Matt Cameron and Red Hot Chili Peppers' Chad Smith, subsequently disavowed the magazine's reporting and insisted their quotes were taken out of context. Hawkins was definitely one of the driving forces in Foo Fighters' long-lasting success, but he also admitted to having insecurities about his talent as a drummer. And kind of ironically, a lot of that insecurity came from being in Foo Fighters with Dave Grohl. After all, before Foo Fighters, Grohl was the drummer for Nirvana. How could Hawkins stack up against that? Showing the duality of his friendship with Grohl, Hawkins once told Spin, "A lot of my insecurities, which led to a lot of my drug use, had to do with me not feeling like I was good enough to be in this band, to play drums with Dave."
It just goes. I'm pretty sure that's what I was doing, man. Pretty sure it's not.
He added that Grohl continuously pushed him to be the best he could possibly be, something he was grateful for. He said, "He could have given up on me a long time ago, but he believed in me so I could get out of that hole." In Rolling Stone's contentious report that probed the final days of Hawkins' life, the music magazine posited that Hawkins had grown weary of the Foo Fighters' busy touring schedule and was looking to cut back on performances before he died. Singer Sass Jordan, one of Hawkins' friends and a former musical colleague, said, "Honestly, I think he was just so tired." Jordan added that her impression was that the drummer was sapped by the business of being in the band and was overall tired of the whole game. An unnamed friend of Hawkins also claimed that the drummer sat down and had a heart-to-heart conversation with Grohl to discuss the matter in detail. The anonymous source stated, "The fact that he finally spoke to Dave and really told him that he couldn't do this and that he wouldn't do it anymore, that was freeing for him. That took balls. It did take a year of working up the guts to do." However, in the same report, a conflicting comment from the band's camp put that entire characterization into question. A representative for the Foo Fighters refuted the notion that Hawkins was looking for a way out of the band or trying to cut back on live performances. The rep asserted that the drummer, quote, "never informed Dave and management of anything at all like that."
The music world and rock fans today are mourning the shocking death of Foo Fighters drummer Taylor Hawkins.
The entertainment world was stunned when Hawkins died on March 25, 2022, from a reported cardiovascular collapse while he was staying at a hotel in Bogota, Colombia before a concert. Hawkins was 50 years old. According to People magazine, he had reportedly complained of chest pains that day before the hotel summoned an ambulance. As the sad news of Hawkins' death broke worldwide, Foo Fighters issued a statement on X saying that they were devastated by the death. The post read, "His musical spirit and infectious laughter will live on with all of us forever. Our hearts go out to his wife, children, and family, and we ask that their privacy be treated with the utmost respect in this unimaginably difficult time." Subsequently, the band canceled all of their upcoming tour dates to regroup. While fans were searching for answers regarding Hawkins' situation, the Attorney General's Office of Colombia was investigating the musician's cause of death. Their report claimed that Hawkins had several substances in his system at the time of his death, including opioids, marijuana, and benzodiazepines. It felt like a savage blow to fans, suggesting that Hawkins' addiction issues may have played a part in the tragedy. However, others have argued that the opioids and benzodiazepines were likely prescribed medications, the former to deal with the toil on his body from years of drumming, the latter to treat anxiety. Years later, it's all still speculation. Hawkins wasn't just a famous rock star and the drummer of one of the biggest bands on the planet. The Foo Fighters drummer was also a devoted husband and father. He married his wife Allison in 2005, and together they had 3 children, Shane, Annabelle, and Everly. Shane is something of a rock musician in his own right. Following in his father's footsteps, he has performed in concert with the Foo Fighters on a couple of occasions. He sat in on drums during the band's My Hero as part of their 2022 tribute concerts for his father, and he later joined them on stage again at a subsequent festival set. The family ties are important to the Foo Fighters, who continue to record and perform following Hawkins' death. In a note that Grohl wrote after the group's first handful of shows back following the drummer's death, the singer and guitarist said, "Every night when I see you singing, it makes me sing harder. When I see you screaming, it makes me scream louder. When I see your tears, it brings me to tears. And when I see your joy, it brings me joy." If you or anyone you know needs help with addiction issues, help is available. Visit the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration website or contact SAMHSA's National Helpline at 1-800-662-HELP 4357.